Well, I want to welcome you to Women of Substance today. This podcast hopefully will encourage you and empower you to do what you feel like is in your heart as far as ministry or business or anything that God puts in your heart to fulfill your destiny. And that's what we really want to do. I think that women especially have so much responsibilities and uh, and yet God wants to give us the desires of our heart. And so maybe this is an opportunity where you can kind of examine your life and see if you fulfilled what He's put in your heart to do. And if you haven't, maybe it's time to get started. And hopefully this will encourage you to do so. Today is just a really special day for me because I'm going to interview my cousin, and her name is Kelly Jeffrey. She lives all the way over in California. I'm in Tampa, so we're all the way across the nation from each other. But a couple of weeks ago, I got to be with her in Ventura, and they have a place there. It's so beautiful, and we had a great time together. But I want to welcome her today. Kelly, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. My first podcast.
Well, good. Well, I believe it'll be great, and you'll do many more. Kelly has always just been an inspiration to me, and she's just a wonderful wife and mother, and just has been so determined to do certain things in her life. She exercises, she eats right, she's very disciplined. And years ago, she started her own business, and we'll get into a little bit of how that happened. But I want her right now to tell us about the present day business, about what she has right now and what she's built. Can you tell us a little bit about your business?
Sure. So we own a little cafe. It's at UCI Medical Center. It's right next to the cancer center. And we've been there for 27 years.
That's wonderful.
It's kind of a little Starbucks. We serve sandwiches, and also we do the smoothies and all the healthy things.
That's great. And you started just by kind of searching an idea. Tell us about how because I understand that you didn't even drink coffee or didn't really like coffee. So how did you get started?
Well, I always wanted to have some sort of business on my own ever since I was probably in my teenage years. And back then, back in the 80s, not many women did much business on their own. They were really either secretaries or teachers or nurses. And yeah. I have to tell you that your mom really inspired me. One summer, I went out to work with Scarlett and her mom and dad and her brother Keith. And her mom and dad ran a motel at the beach, and they kind of split up the duties that they did. And because your dad really wasn't too much into, giving direction or telling people what to do or giving commands of any sort, your mom had been a teacher, so she was pretty used to that. So she was pretty much the one that ran the office and the motel, and then Dawn was always there to help her. And she was so inspirational to me because it was the first woman I'd ever seen that was commanding and had a great business instinct. And, she was so inspiring that I thought, maybe I can do this someday, because I didn't really have many role models, to look at back in the 80s. And she was just an inspiration to me. I mean, I remember after I graduated from college, I went into the hotel industry because I really enjoyed working at the motel with you guys. And I went to work for Marriott, and I went to work in their smaller hotel division, 100 units or less. So I was working residence inns and courtyards and management. And they had decided through thousands of dollars of, you know, focus studies that building restaurants for these, you know, this type of 100 or less, you know, rooms was probably not the best thing to do, because most people that stay at small, you know, hotels or motels want to eat out. And I can remember your mom saying that years ago.
It's true. Yeah, my dad wanted to build a restaurant, and she said, "No, we don't need to do that."
She was just such an inspiration with a good business instinct. So she was pretty much the inspiration for going into business for myself. As far as the actual idea, I had married Alan back when I was still working for Marriott. We met in the hotel industry, and he had come from the construction industry and had always worked for himself. And I had always worked for someone else. And so when we met and married, I said, "Oh, we have to have our own business." Yeah. And he said, "Well, bring me some ideas, and, you know, and I'll really think about them." So every day after work at Marriott, I would come home with a new idea, and he'd say, "Oh, no, I don't think that's going to work." And, you know, we were trying to keep it small because we didn't want to invest a lot of money. Right. And, so I came home one day. Starbucks was a big account for me at the hotel. They were building coffee businesses everywhere. And I said, what if we were to start with a cappuccino cart at you know, a major campus somewhere? And he said, "You know, I think that's a great idea." Well, the problem was I didn't even drink coffee, so I didn't know how to run a coffee business. That's kind of how we started. I learned about coffee, and I decided, you know, I found a location that would be perfect. It was on a campus, but the medical center campus.
Right.
And we opened a cappuccino cart. It was just me and one employee and a blue ice chest and a cappuccino cart.
There you go.
That was it.
Well, you know, I think sometimes we think we have to have everything that we would need to start something. And really, you just need the bare necessities to really get started. And you know, I know from ministry that we just needed chairs and a couple of Bibles and, you know, a little rented place, and let's get started, you know. And when, you know, I know some ministers, well, we have to have a sanctuary. We have to have, you know, just all the advertising, and we have to have all this. But really, if you're serious about starting something, you can start really small.
Yeah.
And you don't need to discount yourself because it's a small start, a small beginning. I think it's very important to know it's okay to start small, isn't it?
It is. And I think I talked to someone from South Africa years ago that worked in the hotel industry. And he said the reason that he moved to America was because in his own country, first of all, he had to slay a lion once he was 16 without, you know, a gun or anything. So he decided to move, you know, so he didn't have to do that. But he said, when you're an immigrant in another country, your family is happy if you just make it. They're not all these, you know, you have to be a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, all these stipulations that really happen when you're in your own country.
Yeah.
So I did face, you know, I had got to a really nice management position with Marriott, and I really I had to quit, which was hard because I'd worked for 7 years for them and I'd climbed the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
And I went from that to just serving coffee to people. Yeah. And it was such a mind shift. You know, I felt like I had failed, but I had to not think about that. I had to think like an immigrant, that I'm just starting, and I'm going to give it the best I can and maybe it's not going to be a large place in the beginning, but that will be my goal at some point.
Right.
And at least with starting small, I was one of the employees, so I could give the best customer service, and it was easier to run with just having, myself and one employee.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Once I was able to humble myself, and it was good.
Yeah.
Although a year into my contract, I had a baby, and Alan decided, okay, well, you need more help. I'm going to quit my job, which scared me because we weren't making it from the coffee place. I would come to him every month and ask for money to pay the vendors. So he goes, no, it's going to be okay. So, he comes into the business, and about a month down the road after that, they tell me at UCI, they said, okay, we've decided to go with another vendor.
Oh.
We're going to switch to Marriott, which was interesting since I came from Marriott. And you have 30 days to wrap things up and move.
Oh, no.
So this is where Fred Price came in. Alan and I were devastated hearing the news, and we're like, oh my goodness, we sunk all our money into this venture. And, we just didn't even know where to turn.
Yeah.
And we were completely devastated when we first got the news, because we have a newborn baby.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a job because he quit.
Right.
And we were going to make this place go.
Mm-hmm.
And he had always listened to Fred Price, walk by faith, not by sight. And so we started listening to him, and we started making a game plan of how to keep the business. And we started, back then you didn't have email, so we started letter writing campaigns, and to write everybody we could think of, since UCI was a public university and they had state funding. And then we started calling everyone that we could think of. And this was a time that I didn't really tell too many people what was going on, because sometimes when you tell other people in your life that you're going through a crisis, they want to pity you. And it's not what I needed to hear at that time. And the few people I did tell said, well, you just need to look for another location. And it wasn't the advice I needed at that time, because we decided we were going to fight this. Mm-hmm. So the first thing, I go to sleep one night, I have this dream about my next door neighbor that I grew up with. And it just so happens that he was a contract attorney and had been working for Universal here in California.
Oh.
I had grown up with him. And so I call him and we meet, and he said, well, let's file a lawsuit against, the university, because you bought certain equipment and you had an arrangement orally that you were going to continue this contract. And I had told him, I talked to my contact, and he said, well, unless it's written, it doesn't matter. And I'll never forget, Scott was his name. He said, are you kidding? He goes, in Universal, we go on handshakes all the time.
Wow. That's interesting. You wouldn't think that, would you?
I wouldn't think that.
No, me neither.
So he files a lawsuit, and then Alan goes, well, we need more publicity. So I call the LA Times, and I tell them the whole story, because it was kind of like a David versus Goliath story.
Yeah, I understand.
And it must have been a slow news day, because they literally sent someone out to interview us that day.
Wow.
Take pictures, and really, and the next day the story came out. It went on the national. I didn't even know there was a national LA Times, but there was, because Dad bought it and read it in Texas. When one of our customers was furious about it, they started a petition that at least, I don't know, 1,100 people signed for us to stay there. And they were so mad at the new company taking over them. So the new company was Marriott, which is who I came from. Someone got the personal fax number of Mr. Marriott and started distributing it. And then they were sending hate faxes to Mr. Marriott that they were trying to, close a small business, and that we would end up on the streets with a newborn baby.
Oh.
All of that, came to fruition. And finally, UCI said, okay, we'll sign 1-year contract for you. And that was 26 years ago.
Oh, how neat. Oh, so there are times where you have to fight, aren't there?
Yes, there are times when you have to fight. There absolutely are challenges every day. I mean, the pandemic has been a huge challenge.
I bet it has.
For every restaurant, it's been a challenge. But this was really hard because it did take a lot of faith. We were scared to go to work because we're at a major hospital.
Sure. Yeah.
And to see when this first started, the doctors, no one knew anything about the virus.
Right.
And the doctors were scared, which made Alan and I, really scared.
Right.
But, we decided we needed to stand next to them and by them. We've been with them, all the customers there, for 27 years. And we need to be as much in the fight with them as they were for our community.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice, Kelly.
Yeah, it feels good to do the right thing. And that was the right thing.
Right. Exactly. And you were helping with masks and all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, we donated. I'm very proud that we donated a lot last year, and we donated masks, and we donated food, and we set up a GoFundMe page for the community to donate food. And
that's wonderful.
It really, when you're scared and you have a lot of fear, what helped me during this pandemic was really giving. Giving whatever I could, whether it was working really hard, giving money, giving food, giving anything I could, just helped combat that fear.
That's really neat. Yeah. And so many people close down and close out and isolate. And I know that there was a time where we all had to isolate.
Yeah.
And do that. But I think that you're right. When you're reaching out and helping others, sometimes it really does dissipate our own fears and struggles, and maybe even self-preservation and all the things,
Yeah.
So that's wonderful.
It helped to put everything back into the right context. The fear was so great at the very beginning. And, my first, everybody wanted to isolate and stay away. And we were in a business that was at a medical center. So we were the only restaurant I knew that needed to stay open because they didn't have very many places to eat.
Right.
So that wasn't an option to do that. And it just felt so much better once I could, to give to anybody. It didn't even matter. Just any type of giving really, really helped.
That's good. Really good. Well, I just know that, through these years, 27 years, that, there's been probably all kinds of struggles, and then too, all kinds of really great things happening. One I think is remarkable is that you have your own line of coffees. and Miss Kelly's coffee, and all my family loves it. Yeah, I told you my daughter wanted me to get some while I was out there a couple of weeks ago with you. Can you bring home some coffee? So I think that's really neat that you had your have your own line. Can people buy that online, or do they have to come to Los Angeles and Anaheim to get that?
Well, we used to have our own line.
Oh, okay.
During the pandemic, is a lot of the vendors that all the restaurateurs worked with,
Yeah.
they were having their own problems, and
Okay.
the people that we had make our coffees ended up shutting down, and they only have a place, I think, in the Midwest. So
Oh,
it's, yeah, I had to find another place to buy coffee from. So we no longer make our own mixes like
yeah.
we used to. For years, we sold our own. We had gone to a food chemist and made our own mocha and our own chai. And for years we sold it, and we still have the recipe. When things get back to normal, we will make it again.
Oh, good.
In the meantime, we can't sell it because we don't have it. I'm buying from other people. The few people that are left in business, I'm buying from.
Wow.
It's been another challenge because
Yeah.
the vendors have really suffered.
Yeah, I bet.
So it's really, it's been a difficult couple of years. And to say we're back is not really true. I mean, we are still down, but just like everybody, we're in the same boat. We're trying to make the best of situation and reduce our expenses where we can hold out, make it.
Sure.
But yeah, for years we did sell our mix, just not now.
Well, if somebody wanted to find you, how do you have a website they could look at, or find your location?
Yeah, it's Miss Kelly's Café and Bakery.
Okay.
That's
Good.
our website, and we do ordering online. We're now a cafe. We grew from a cappuccino cart to a cafe back in 2013. And it's a little indoor-outdoor Euro cafe next to the Cancer Center. I tell most people I know, hopefully I'll never see you, because it means they're at the hospital for some reason.
Oh my, yeah, I understand.
We are there for people that, are at the hospital and going through difficult times, because hence my dieting all the time, because I want to stay in shape, since
Sure.
you know that that's so important to stay out of the hospital.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Take care of ourselves, right?
Take care of ourselves. Yeah.
Good. That's good. Well, I really, well, maybe one last question. I know we've talked for a while, but if some young girl was to come to you and say, "I want to start my business," and this is what I'd like to do, what would you say? Don't do it, or what advice would you give her?
I would tell her to do something that she truly enjoys, because you're going to be working really hard at whatever you're getting into if you're going to go into business for yourself. And so you really need to enjoy it. And it's real important that you try to stay small, I think, in the beginning. And not only does it prepare you for knowing the inner workings of your business, because you started from the ground, it also, if it doesn't make it, you don't lose that much.
Oh, that's good.
And don't be scared to fail, because truly, I'm at a medical center where they do a lot of research and scientific experiments, and the way they discover things is through failure. And I truly think that the road to success is through failure. Certainly, I've failed many a times at my own business. And so now I know a lot of ways that I shouldn't do business.
Yeah.
Or a lot of products that, are just not going to make it, but that's okay.
Yeah. 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 And I think sometimes we fail and then we just beat ourselves up and think, oh, I'm just going to quit. I
Yeah.
can't do it. And that discouragement sets in. So that's really good advice because anything I've ever been involved with, usually it takes 2 or 3 times to get it at least to get it right. And certainly in ministry and even with my parents' motel, I mean, they had so many opportunities to quit. They get it all right and get it all going and maybe making some profit. Here come a hurricane,
Right.
knock the whole thing down. And so, you have to. I remember one of the most devastating hurricanes that they had. My dad said, "That's it. I'm done. Just mow it down, and we'll, the ruins, and we will sell the land." And mother said, "No, we'll come back bigger and better, prettier rooms." And, and they did. They actually did. So I think that's the time you really have to step in and say, okay, we can do this and we can do it. And it was better. It was time really to remodel anyway. And kind of refurbish and freshen things up. And so they got, a really nice federal loan because of the hurricane. And there they go,
Yeah.
So you have to kind of, and what I've hear you say is, take some risk. Some people call it risk. Some people call it faith. Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know, but
it's definitely both.
Yeah. You have to step out there, don't you?
Yeah. And then, like you said, manage your disappointments, not to go down the road that you want to beat yourself up. And you just have to keep on being persistent and, and growing through even your failures. You learn things.
Yeah.
So, and that tenacity will bring success.
Definitely. Well, yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. It inspires me right now. It does, because, there's things that I still haven't done that I want to do. And it just, sometimes it's hard to make those first steps. You think, oh, can I really do this?
Yes.
That you've been very inspiring today.
Thank you.
And
I think the first step is probably the hardest.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I love you so much, and I appreciate you. And I'm glad you're my cousin. And you're coming to see us soon. I'm so excited. Coming to Florida. So we'll have some more real fun. But thank you so much for today.
You're very welcome.
And I want to tell everybody out there if you're in Los Angeles, Anaheim, or Irvine area, go by and see Kelly and drink some coffee. And meet Alan, her husband, who's great. I love him dearly. And you'll be blessed because of that. Well, thank you for tuning in today to this podcast. We have another one coming up. In fact, it's every other week, the first and third Friday. And so hopefully this has spoken to you. If you would like to, we have a magazine. It's called Grace and Faith Journal, and it comes out once a quarter, and we'd love to send that to you. Has interesting articles, and then it tells what we're doing at Horton Ministries International to help people and to minister people around the world. So if you want to email us at office@scarletthorton.com, then you can give us your address. We can send you our Grace and Faith magazine. And if you're in Tampa, Florida, come see us at Grace Harvest Church. We pastor a local church here. But we mainly want to pray for you and encourage you. So again, if you need prayer, email us for prayer. We'd love to do that. And tune in next time. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.